Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tablas Creek Wednesday Instagram Live broadcast. As always, I'm Jason Haas. For the second broadcast in a row, I am joining you from an unexpected location, unless you joined me last week. This is where I grew up in Vermont. I'm a Vermont kid. The import company that my dad founded, Viognier Brands, was based here in Vermont. You can actually see it. Its old office was in the barn of the Vermont farmhouse that I grew up in. So we try to make it back here each summer. I'm here with my family for the next couple of weeks, and that will be the backdrop for the conversation. I am super excited for my guest this week. It is Erin Brooks, who is a reviewer for the Robert Parker Wine Advocate, who reviews the wines of the Central Coast, as well as Sonoma and Oregon. But as I always do when we're waiting for people to join, I am going to show you some pictures of the vineyard. And these were taken by Ian Consoli this morning, so all credit to him for doing the work to go around the vineyard. First, an overview photo. I talked to Jordy, who's our viticulturist, and asked him how the vineyard held up through the heat over the last weekend. It got up to 110 a couple of days. And he said it was really remarkably good. Hardly any sunburn. The canopies still look great. You can see in this picture Viognier and Mourvedre and a little bit of Tannat. No veraison yet. I'll show you a couple pictures of some different grapes. We've got Viognier, which is looking good. Clusters are looking good. Vines are looking healthy. And then I'll show you Marsanne. Again, things look great out there. This is tracking maybe a little behind recent years. We had a little bit late bud break. We thought that at veraison we're maybe 10 days later than normal. We've caught up a little bit, I would say, compared to last year, but we're still right at a time when we would have been seeing veraison in years like 13, 14, 15, and we're not yet. So I'm expecting a more or less normal start time to harvest. A couple of the things that we have going on. Obviously, this is a time of year when there's lots of stuff going on among the other things that we've interplanted. This is one of the apple trees that we have interplanted among the vineyard. You can see the apples getting big. We've already harvested cherries. Plums are just starting. It's a good time of year if you're a tree farmer. And then in the winery, we are getting ready to bottle the Esprit Red. So it's been living in foudres, big 1,200-gallon barrels for the last year or so, and it's being reblended into tank, and then will be bottled in the next couple of weeks. The other thing that we're working on now is sending up our next batch of wines to be kegged. This is sort of hard to see. This is a portable stainless steel tank. This was Picpoul Blanc. We've been doing the 3 Patelin wines, Patelin de Tablas, Patelin de Tablas Blanc, Patelin de Tablas Rosé, in kegs for wine bars and restaurants that serve wine on tap for a decade now, and we started last year doing a small batch kegging program. So this year we started with Grenache, and Picpoul just went up a couple weeks ago, and we're going to do Marsanne as we get towards the fall. So look for those in your favorite cool local restaurant and wine bar. And then finally, I wanted to show you something from our tasting room. We have for the last year been using our outdoor spaces, which in previous years we would have been able to use for picnicking, for our outdoor tastings. And those patios, we're going to keep all those for outdoor tasting, but we've been building some new picnic areas. So we're limited now. We've only got 2 of these picnic tables set, but we have spots where we're going to be making space for another couple. So hopefully we'll be able to accommodate people who want to hang out and picnic before or after a tasting. So anyway, that's the big news. We're back inside in the tasting room, which has been great during the heat wave, but we're also obviously offering outside tastings too. So next time you come and see us, you'll have choices. Okay, I am going to stop sharing pictures, and then I'm going to invite Erin to join me. Okay, I see her. I'm sending, and hopefully we'll have her on screen. Hey, there
Did
you
it
are.
work? Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm apologizing in advance. It has been raining almost the entire time that I've been in Vermont the last 2 weeks, and
Oh,
we have a thunderstorm, which is supposed to get here in about an hour.
yes.
If it does, there may be a little frantic scramble while I run inside, but for now, you get the nice green Vermont backdrop.
I wish we had rain here.
Yeah, I would wish we could give you some. Um, it's uh, it's punishingly dry in California, and
Yeah, yeah.
yet you can't go outside here without sinking into the turf up to your ankles because it's so wet.
Nice. I can't, it's like, what does rain look like? I don't even remember.
Excellent. So in my quick intro, I let people know that you are a reviewer for the Wine Advocate, but I always like to start by asking people to talk about their kind of journey into wine. Was wine a part of your family's life as you were growing up?
No, absolutely not. I grew up in North Carolina in the South. I think my parents drank a little bit, but nothing like it wasn't necessarily a part of our life at all. And I didn't drink wine at all. Um, let's see, I moved from North Carolina to Santa Fe to go to college out there, and I studied creative writing and politics. Always have wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid. So I graduated college right at the end of '07 when the economy took a horrible dive, and I
Yep.
had no way to make any money. I was like super poor. Like, what do I do? You know, and I didn't know how to make a living writing. It's still hard. P.S. So it doesn't pay that well. So anyway, I graduated. I didn't know what to do. I ended up getting a job at a restaurant out in Santa Fe at Geronimo Restaurant. I'm sure
Yeah,
if you've been to Santa Fe, you know.
it's a great
And I
spot.
worked, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I worked there a long time, and that's where I got into wine. And I had, you know, the Proustian moment where I was like, oh my God, someone served me a Viognier, and he said, you know, I was like 22, and he said, you know, I want you to smell this wine. Don't chug it. I know you're a kid and you want to just chug it and get drunk. He said, but I want you to smell it. And I put my nose in the glass and I could smell honeysuckle, which grows in North Carolina, right in the South. And I just had one of those like, woo, like sparkly eyed moments. And that was it for me. I kept running with it. I started studying with the Court of Master Sommeliers and became a certified somm and really worked in restaurants for a long time. I moved to Napa in 2015 because I wanted to become a master of wine. I wanted to study, and there's limited resources in Santa Fe. So I came out here and worked for Thomas Keller and worked at the restaurant at Meadowood, at La Toque, and then got the job at the Wine Advocate, which was just crazy. It's just exactly my skill set, right? It's writing and
Yeah.
tasting. And you know, I'm like, I had no idea what it would look like to be a professional wine writer. I just knew that I loved wine, and I obviously want to be a writer. So I thought, well, if I can figure out how to do both, that would be the best. So it's been really great. It was 10 years in restaurants as a somm, and now I think we're 4 years in at the Advocate. So I'm very lucky.
So writing reviews are a very specific kind of writing. I mean, it's very different from, say, writing an article. Though obviously you do write articles too. I mean, that's a piece of what I think is so interesting about the Wine Advocate coverage is it's not just a bunch of reviews. It's
Yeah.
there are articles that put the reviews and the regions in context. Did you have to learn how to write reviews, or was that something that came naturally?
Definitely. No, I'm still learning how to write reviews. I'm pretty sure the first, you know, year or so they were just terrible. I'm sure, like medium ruby purple and they smells like, you know, cherries. Like great. Not exciting. No, it's tough, you know, like I look back at the things that Bob wrote, and you know what he was able to do was not only describe the wine, but like you said, put it in context. So I'm still learning how to do that. I studied poetry, so I understand the concept of, you know, convey as much meaning as you can in as short of a space. But that's tough, right? And primary number one, you have to describe the wine correctly. But there's so much more you can say in a tasting note it provides so much more value. So the longer I do it, I think the better that I get. And I definitely don't think I'm anywhere close to being like a great, you know, wine writer yet, but I just work at it every day. You know, that's the best thing about writing is you can always get better. You know, whether you're working on poetry, creative nonfiction, essays, you know, tasting notes, whatever. I'm constantly trying to get better, better, better. And that's part of the MW as well, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
I want to know about wine, but I also want to be a really, great writer as well.
I love the comparison of tasting notes to poetry, because you're totally
Yeah.
right that in both cases, space is really at a premium, and you're trying to
Yeah.
give as evocative a description as you can in as concise a number of words as you can.
Exactly. Even with an article, it's the same, right? That's what makes a good writer a good writer. Like if I can convey something in 1,000 words, I don't need 10,000. You need more skill to use less words, actually.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting to me. Like, you learn a new word and I get to use this new vocabulary word. I'm a total dork when it comes to writing. I really enjoy it.
Do you have a favorite like obscure um, like descriptor word that you think is super cool?
For wine,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Well, there's a lot I could rag on. There's a lot of there's a lot of overused words. No, I don't know. I'm not sure. I try to be careful. There's so many words and things you can say that are cliche or overused, and it's kind of hard not to do that when you're like 500 notes in. It's you're trying to find the personality of that one wine. Sometimes it's easier than other times, right? If a wine speaks to you, I'm sure it's the same for a consumer. Whether or not you're writing about it, that sometimes a wine really speaks to you, and you can like capture that. So I try to avoid, just silly stuff. I heard someone said that I write in hyperbole. I thought that was interesting. So I'll have to go think about that now. Um, no,
I
just
know.
it's got to be beautiful, but it has to be intelligent and,
Yeah.
and and short and convey something. So yeah, just always trying to get better.
We did a vertical tasting of our Roussins recently. So every vintage of Roussin that we've made back to 2001.
Oh man.
And by the end of it, I was like, how many different ways can I say honey and caramel and nuts and pears? Like, I mean, we've got 20 vintages of the same wine, and obviously they're not identical. None of the wines were the same as the others, but there there's a fairly broad, I mean, fairly narrow slice of the spectrum of what things can taste like that you're pulling from when you do an article like that. So
Exactly.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some repetition involved. I mean, I would love for there to be no repetition, but
it's
it's
impossible.
it's impossible. But ultimately that's the goal. Taste the wine and be able to see the soul of the wine right then and capture it, right? Like, and the longer you do it, the more you taste the same wines over and over year after year. Hopefully the stronger you get, right?
Yeah.
Bob's so darn good at that. All that context, so that's what I hope for. You just keep getting better and better, sharper and sharper, being able to taste a wine and go like, oh, that's it. That's what this wine is about, you know?
I, I
So
remember I remember reading an article a couple of years ago about a Canadian hockey announcer who used something like 4,000 different verbs over the course of a season to describe a very limited set of actions. Um, and I was like, imagine having the creative capacity to do that. So
I know, and you're on your feet too, because think about it. Unless I'm doing this, taste from home type of scenario, right? I'm normally in the winery, right? I come in and we taste, we have a couple hours, and then I zoom away. So trying to, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do that when you're like, okay, I got 2 minutes. Oh, I gotta go, and to me, like each wine is somebody's livelihood, right? So that it's important to have that total focus while you're reading that wine, right? So you got to pay attention. You got to be in there. It's just really important.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
it's, I mean, the level of focus that it takes is, and I mean, we never taste more than like 30 wines in a morning, and like knowing the number of wines that you're responsible for describing and tasting, like seriously, hats off. It's not easy. The amount of I think people don't realize the amount of focus that it takes to taste and describe
Oh,
rather
it
than
sounds
just tasting and
so,
appreciating.
yeah, it's so glamorous, right? Oh, wow, you get to taste wine all day. I'm like, yeah, but my teeth start to hurt, my stomach starts to hurt, I'm tired, your mind's like beep 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 beep, I mean, it's like extreme focus, and it's physically kind of tough, really. um I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's like when someone says, "Oh, you're a sommelier," and I'm like, "Yeah, I lift a lot of boxes." I
Yeah,
carry a lot of boxes around the cellar, right?
I
There's
get all the same stuff. I mean, it's like, oh, you get to make wine, like that must be great. It's like, yeah, I spent the whole time on our patio just tasting, like that's all we do. It's like,
or
no, there's
cleaning. Wineries like 90% like cleaning.
yeah.
you know,
Again, not that I'm complaining. I get to do some
exactly,
amazingly cool stuff, um, including stuff like this. So, uh,
totally.
so what is you sort of alluded to it briefly, but sort of what's a normal work day for you like?
Oh, it depends on the day, which is another reason I love doing this. It's always different. So one day I might be out, say I'm going to Sonoma today. I'll leave early. I'll book 3 different wineries. I'll go and taste with one, taste with the next, taste with the next, enter the notes when I get home. And that could be a day. Maybe I have like a huge backlog of notes that I've taken out in the field. Maybe I spend a day entering all those. Like that's a nice boring day in front of the computer, right? Typing. Other days I get to interview people, right? Like I love going around and talking to winemakers and interviewing people, just talking to people, making little videos or just asking questions. Because I'm in school too, right? So it's work, but it's also, I'm constantly learning, and the questions hopefully get deeper. Um, so yeah.
Cool. Um, how much? I mean, the name of the publication is the Robert Parker Wine Advocate. Like, how much does Bob's shadow like? How much do you feel his presence in? I mean, I know he's
I
not
feel
reviewing
his
anymore,
shadow.
but yeah,
I feel his shadow. I mean, I feel his shadow because he's when you do something like you're a writer and you find another writer that you really respect, like that's something, that's huge for me. I don't know him that well. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, or work with him like the other reviewers did. But I feel his shadow in terms of his skill set, and so in my mind, like you're not really great until you make it to that level. So yeah, I'm a perfectionist, right? So for me, his shadow is like, get better, get better, get better, get better, get better, do better, keep pushing, do better. That's what I feel. I don't know. I'm sure the other reviewers, having known him personally, have all kinds of thoughts and feelings about it. I think we all miss having that presence around, I would say. But yeah, to me, it's just a huge amount of respect and like kind of awe, like, damn, I mean, look what you did for the business and look what an amazing writer you are. It's just, yeah, for me, it's a very long shadow of respect. Like, God, I would love to be that good.
it was. I mean, I got to taste with him for about a decade, a little less than a decade, when he was still doing all of the reports for the Central Coast himself. And one of the things that really jumped out for me was just sort of his joy and what he did, like the just him getting to do what had sort of been his dream and putting it together and having I mean, he was well aware of his own importance in the world of wine, but at the same time he wasn't, and he took what he did really seriously, but it was done with joy, which I thought was
Yeah,
really cool. I wasn't sure that I was expecting that.
yeah, it's funny. I come across some people, you can tell that they obviously, don't like their job, right? You can tell when someone's like not into it. Um, but why would you do it otherwise? I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, me personally, like I'm not making millions over here, nobody's making millions of dollars writing about wine, but yeah, so why else would you do it? If you're not,
Well,
you have to love it. I think you have to love it to be in this business. There's plenty of people with lots of money who've started wineries, and that's a different thing. But to actually, you know, bust your butt and make a living doing it, you really have to enjoy it, I think.
yeah,
What's the purpose otherwise? You
yeah,
know? I mean,
totally.
that was my whole goal in life. Like, okay, I want to be a writer. And then I found wine, and I was like, perfect. If all I need to do is make enough money to have freedom, and that to me is like the notion of a brilliant life. Find something you love to do, make your living doing it, and just, it doesn't have to be fancy, and I don't need a boat and blah blah blah. But I do enjoy, I want to put my skills to use every day.
Super cool. So talk a little bit. You mentioned that you're still studying, and I know I get email questions from you from time to time on kind of technical things, and I think that's great. So can you talk a little bit about what you're studying?
Yes, I just started the Master of Wine program, which I'm so excited about. This has been my dream since I found wine. I was like, oh my God, I saw the Master of Wine. I was like, oh my God, that's for me, right? It's writers, and it's very scholastic, and that's what I do. So stage one is what I'm up to. How do I explain this? There's two stages, right? Stage one is like, okay, we're gonna let you in, but let's see if you're good enough to actually like get through. So I'll take a test in August. It will be 12 blind wines and then a couple of essay questions. If I do well enough, they'll say, okay, you can come into stage two. Now, stage two is at the end of the year, you got the real test. You got the real Master of Wine test. The test itself is, it's 3 different tasting papers. So a set of 12 whites, 12 reds, and then 12 mixed bags, sparkling, fortified, sweet wines. And then there's 5 different theory papers. There's viticulture, so you're in the vineyard, you're in the winery, there's bottling, there's contemporary issues and business of wine. So it's very broad. And it's interesting coming from the Court of Master Sommeliers, totally different, right? For the court, it was, okay, there's 6 wines right here. You're going to do it all verbal. You have 25 minutes, go, and the questions themselves were pretty, it was like, flashcard wine stuff, right? Like, what's the AVA of blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's fun, but when you get to the MW, now they're like, no, we want you to tell us why. Like, for example, here's 3 whites. They're all from the same region. They don't necessarily want to know what they are. They want you to say, okay, how are they made? How would you sell them? Who would buy them? Stuff like this. So it's more focused on business. It's more of the why and the argumentation. Lisa Parati Brown told me once, I always remember, she said, getting the Master of Wine is you taste like a detective and write like an attorney. Which is fascinating, right? So you're tasting the wine, and based on what's in the glass, you have to make an argument as to what it, if I'm going to say that they're all Chardonnays from Burgundy, I can't just say that. I have to say why, and why from the glass, acidity, alcohol, flavor profile, things like that. So I've got to know the why behind things. I got to be able to tell how much oak is there, how much alcohol is in this fortified wine, how many grams of sugar are here. So it's a way different mode of thinking, and it's a very deep way of thinking about wine. Again, always trying to get better, right? Better. I just want to always be better. And to me, learning to think about wine like that's fascinating. That's deep knowledge now, right? This isn't, no, I can't tell you the AVAs of the Vauquelin, but I should be able to understand, how are those wines made? Why do you make them? Where do they go once they're made? Things like that. It's super fascinating. So yeah, I'm in this first little year here. So I do tasting group every Saturday from like 9 in the morning till 2:30. And then I do it again every Sunday from 9 in the morning to 2:30. And then study groups twice a week. And so you just, I taste all day wine, and then it's like close the computer and start on the Master Wine stuff. So I'm in the full like wine, like dreaming about it. I know when you're deep in studying, you start dreaming about wine. It's pretty freaky.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But again, you don't do this unless you really like it.
Yeah,
Right?
the thing that I've always been impressed with, and I mean, I've had the pleasure to know a bunch of master somms, but also a number of masters of wine. Um, And the Master Som has the whole service piece, which is a little different than what you'd be looking at for the Master of Wine. But the Master of Wine is much more academic. I mean, there's much
Yep,
more research. There's much more writing. And
definitely.
like the Masters of Wine who I've gotten to meet, like just the level of depth that they've had to go in to get that to get that status, to get that certification, is an indication of really deep interest in the subject. And like some
Yeah.
of the most fascinating wine conversations I've ever had have been with Masters of Wine, because obviously they're thinking about this stuff from so many different angles and trying to put it into context, and have had to do that and then communicate that in a way that is kind of takes that out of just the world of wine people into something more
Mhm.
generally applicable, which I've always thought is super cool.
Yeah, and the way they communicate too. You know when you a master communicator, someone who can
Right.
talk about wine like a really good wine teacher. If you can think back to anyone who taught you about wine where you're like, "Oh, I get that." Oh, huh. That's kind of the piece that I'm after mostly, right? I want to be a better communicator. And I think on a personal level and, on the universe of writing, these are like the top wine communicators, in my opinion. So, again, just going after it. But they're the best, look at what they write, how they write,
Yeah.
the depth with which they approach their subjects. That's just so great. I love it. It's so good.
Okay, so one of the things that I think is super cool that we talked about a little bit a week ago or 2 weeks ago, is the new initiative that the Wine Advocate is doing to promote wineries that are farming in really progressive ways. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, these are our little eco distinction awards. We've been working on this forever. I'm so excited to like finally present it. Basically, it's tough to communicate about this stuff, right? Because why? Because organic means one thing, but grown with organic grapes means another thing. And sustainable, we don't know what that means. Natural wine, we're not sure what that means, maybe except in France. And there's so many definitions, there's so many legal ways to look at it. So we decided overall, how do you communicate that? Well, we can use our notes for some of the finer points, but we thought let's start with a button for if something's certified. That's very easy to understand. It gives a framework. So we'll start there, biodynamic or organic. And so from now on, when I'm entering my little notes in the system, I can click those boxes per wine even, which is amazing, not per a winery. So it's even per wine, which I think is pretty good, right? Some places will, that vineyard's organic, but that one's not,
Right.
right?
I mean,
Like
that's true for us. I mean, we've got
exactly.
so the Patalan and Tablas wines that we make, those are sourced from multiple vineyards, not all of whom are certified organic or biodynamic, but then
That's
all
right.
of the ones that are from our estate are both. So yeah, it makes sense to do it by wine rather than just by winery.
I think so. And then it's searchable because I mean, obviously sustainability is something it's a huge topic right now, as we know, not even just in the wine business. But I don't know, there's a changing of the guard. I'm a little younger than some other folks who do this thing. And I am always thinking, like, why aren't we bringing younger people into the wine business? And sustainability is huge for that. People my age and younger care. They want to know where their food was grown. They want to know what's in their beverage, as they should. As they
Yeah.
should know. There should be more transparency. There should be labeling laws and such. So, I think it's a great way to get younger people excited about it if they have that belief and they feel like they can go and search a wine based on that belief. That's huge. That's huge. I vote with my dollar too. So I think it's just excellent. I'm really proud of us for doing it, and hopefully we'll keep doing it, and then you build up a big database of the
Yeah.
searchable stuff. And um and again, as I said in the notes, there's so many circumstances where somebody's not certified. However, that they're responsible farmers, or so on and so forth. Some people don't want to do the red tape, so we try to address that, because it's so much broader than like the tick of a box. but at least to start, this is like an understandable way to approach it. So I hope it just continues and grows and gets bigger, and that we, as a company, pay more attention to it. It's really important, obviously. I mean, I'm sitting here in Napa shaking in my boots over the fire season.
Yeah.
Just not going away. And the wine industry has a chance to be a leader, here for other industries. I mean, all of us have to take personal responsibility for what we're doing to this planet. It's just crazy. It's just insane. So I'm proud. I feel happy and proud about it.
I feel like that's one of the ideas. And before I say this, you should be proud about it. I mean, it is the kind of thing that really all of us have to be using whatever platform we have
Absolutely.
to be influencing as many people as we can to take whatever actions they can to make to mitigate the larger issues of climate change, to address the challenges of scarce natural resources, to promote biodiversity. I mean, all of us have to be doing everything that we can do.
Yeah.
And I got to believe that when I don't know who proposed that idea in an editorial meeting, but like it must have been one of the things where whenever it happened, everyone was like, "Of course we should do this."
Yeah,
Like what?
obviously.
It feels like the kind of thing that like other publications are going to look at and be like, yeah, we got to do that too. Like there's no like it is incumbent upon us to do this, because not only is it providing kind of a better service to your readers, who do, at least large numbers of them, want to know the sourcing of what they're consuming, but it's also a public service. I mean, it is something that each of us can do for the larger world and society. And so kudos. It's a big deal.
Thank you. We all have to start on an individual level, right? If you want to make change, you better start right from yourself. So I think we all need to be doing things on a personal level, really, Greta, yay, Greta, like, let's go. Like, yeah, sense of urgency, right? Yeah. If we can have a sense of urgency in the kitchen, then let's have a sense of urgency about the environment. So I think it's great. Sense of urgency. Let's go. And, support your community and take care of our planet, man, that we just got this one little place. So.
Yeah, I'm tired of, well, I guess I'm not quite tired of reading post-apocalyptic fiction. It's like, seems like the only kind of fiction I'm reading at this point. But at the same time, we've all got to do what we can do.
Yep, definitely. I agree with you.
So we've only got, like, honestly, it's been almost half an hour already. I can't believe it's flown by. But kind of what might be next for you? What new stuff are you working on? Are there things that you know are coming that you can share? Or do you feel like kind of what you're looking at now, what you've described, is kind of your next couple of years?
Yeah, my next couple of years is school, really. I moved out here because I love Santa Fe, and I would never have left had I been able to make a career there. I was not, super jazzed up to move out here. I'm not gonna lie. A little hippie girl. I like to be in the empty desert, but no, I moved out here for a very specific reason, and that was because I don't want to wake up in 10 years and think, oh, I never tried to go after my dream. Like, if you try and it doesn't work, then at least you tried. Yeah. But I don't want to live with regrets. So I came out here specifically to become a wine writer and get my Master of Wine. That's it. So I'm like, yeah, I honestly, I look around every day and I'm like so sparkly eyed. I'm like, how is this happening? Like, I'm so lucky, it's just crazy. I've dreamed about becoming a Master of Wine for like forever. So yes, in my mind, I mean, 3 to 5 years is like the average to get through this thing, because you have the stage 1, stage 2, and then you have a research paper, right? So it's not a small endeavor. So I think if I can continue writing, continue tasting, get this, Master of Wine, that's my immediate like 3 to 5 year plan. What's after that, I have no idea. I don't know. The universe is abundant. But yeah, that's my short-term goal. Is that's why I live in, a teeny tiny apartment and just taste wine all day and write. I just consider myself a student. I just, keep working, put your head down, keep working, let's go. That's where I'm at. Let's go, let's do this. I want to get this. Then I have no idea. To
Awesome.
be honest,
Go.
I just
You
want to
have time.
write.
Go get it. Go get
I
it,
just
and
want to
then you'll
be
figure it out.
writing, As long as I'm writing, then I'm a happy camper.
Cool. Well, I did literally had like a half dozen more questions that I wanted to ask you, but I do want to keep this to half an hour. So
Okay.
before we go, how do people follow you, read your work if they don't already? What's the best way for them to keep up on what you're working on?
That's a good question. I'm a little bit reclusive. I'm not gonna lie. This is the first time I've ever had to have a public face. So this is, as you know, and I've told you before, I'm quite shy in these scenarios. So I have Instagram at Joie de Vino, JoieDVino. I'm on Facebook, but sorry, it's for my family mainly. So I'm not gonna I don't really use that very much. And of course, our website, robertparker.com. We have a free to read section now, which is super exciting. So hopefully some of my stuff will come up on there. You can probably read some of my things on the Michelin website as well. Back in the day, I did some winemaker interviews, like a little
Yeah.
series. So I know that stuff's on the Michelin website, on our website, on the wine journal section.
One of the
Um,
things that is in the free to read section is that great profile you did of Tablas Creek for our 30th anniversary. So that's in
oh,
the free to read thing. So anybody who has not gone onto to robertparker.com and checked out Erin's profile of Tablas Creek from a couple of years ago, you should do it because it's great.
I love interviews. That's like one of the best parts of the job is to interview people and try to capture their voice. Try to capture a place. Again, you're capturing the personality of the wine. So same for the winery, right? Trying to capture a sense of like, who are they? Like, why do they exist? So yeah, those are fun to do. Maybe I should do some more of those coming up. But yeah, find me on the interwebs, on the Instagrams.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate you joining me from across the country. Um,
Thank you, Jason. And you made it through. No rain yet.
it's sprinkling lightly on the little awning that's over my head, but I think we
Beautiful.
made it before the skies opened up. So I'll take it.
I hear some birdies.
Yep,
Maybe
it's
it's about to start.
birds. Yep.
Thank you
Cool.
so much, Jason. What a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Totally my pleasure. So Tablas Creek folks, I will be back in 2 weeks. My next guest is going to be the great chef and restaurateur and writer Hugh Atchison, who has restaurants in Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. So join us in 2 weeks for that. Meanwhile, if you're in California, stay cool. If you're in Vermont, stay dry. And otherwise, have a good couple of weeks. Thanks, Erin.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.